Yeah, today is the first day in 2023, and I just take an opportunity to just reflect upon the goodness of God. God has been good to me, so I decide to just take a little ride out from the house and take my daddy with me. And I just stopped by the seaside and just for a moment of reflection. Yeah. Trying year 2022. Many things changed, many challenges came to us, but we decided that we will fight it through. One of them is really dealing with our father, who, when the COVID 2020 came, it left him with a terrible stroke, and he has to be cared for 24/7. But to know where he's coming from, but when the doctors called us from the hospital and said that he need to take his caregiver, that he could teach the caregiver how to take care of him. The doctor was saying that he has to have a feeding tube in, that he can swallow on his own. But shortly after that, he called us back and she said, no, he can take fluid, but not much more. So we took him home, keeping comfortable because according to them, it's just a matter of time. She did not even give us an appointment to see her back. She gave us a referral to a physiotherapy. When we went there, the man looked at us and said that, well, there's nothing much we can expect from this man at 92, and there's nothing voluntary we could do with that side of his body, but hey, whose report will you believe? That's my daddy. God has prospered him in his challenges, and I know you see what he's able to do. So I decided that I will take those videos this morning to show you that he's not dead yet. He's alive, he's well, and God is still doing a work on his behalf. Continue to pray. Play. Next. Go. Fine. Go. All right. Move this one now, like this. When it come up, out and in. Go. Out. And I just want to take this opportunity to just to share a few things that I consider that's very, very important to me. One of the first things I remember about my dad is basically, we never have much in Christmas time. And I could remember when my mother came back from what we call Grand Market, all that he could bring back for us. We would brought each of us what we call fifi, a whistle. And we would make a hell of a lot of noise with that whistle around the place. My toy was basically made out of milk carton and the Civil Orange's wheel, and I could string up quite a number of those together and make my little truck. But one day I was surprised on that tree in the yard. I saw my daddy chopping out some wheels, and I sat there and I watched him until he put it all together. When it was done, it was a truck. Could you believe it? A truck. I couldn't sit in it, but it's big enough that I can push it. It has wheel, it has a steering that it could turn, and I cherish that thing so much. So that's the first recollection I have of him being there for us. Yeah, the second collection I have, I remember it was the first time Papa ever worked outside of the home, when he was working with the government at the research station in Bordeaux. I think he was mixing soil and taking care of plants, and so he used to come home with a little salary. And I remember he would call me, and he would take out his tithe envelope, and he would take out his tithe and his offering. He would put it in the Bible, and then he would have some envelope and ask me to write on it, and he would take out a little of the money, shuffle it in, put it in that one. That one is for the lady who we trust from in the shop down Rosewell. That one is the one we trust from our planters. That one was a piece of furniture that my mother took out. And then he would go back, and then he would remember that he had owed somebody some money, or he had promised somebody some money, so he would go back into those and trim them a little. But I always sat and looked and noticed that the one he put in the Bible with the tithe, he never touched that one at all. That was, and that taught me a lesson as to when it comes to God, the commitment. And even when it comes to church, we used to, as children, sit and look, because our church was in building and they were often taking pledges. And he was the first one to get up and make a pledge, and then we'll say, wow, there goes my shoes. So that was, and he was always committed, He was a prayer man for many a crusade, and boy, God has worked well on his behalf. The next reflection I want to remember is that early in our childhood, and as I said to you, we were growing up like literally in the middle of a plain field, so we didn't have much at all. And I say much, we didn't have much. And I remember we're in church and somebody rushed and called us, and we're just coming out of church, and the man jumped out and he shouted out, "Seymur, your house burned down flat." That was like a dagger to our heart. We jumped out the van, we went back home. We were not expecting to see anything standing, but it was still there. It was about 3 rooms, I think, at the time. And it was burnt out, yes. Obviously, somebody had set a fire. And, all my books, I was to go back to my 3rd year and final year at college. All my books were destroyed. All our clothes were piled together on a bed. Burnt. but one of the sad realities, and I laugh about it now, but one of the things that we were more embarrassed about as children was that people was now knowing how we were living. I wouldn't tell you what our mattress used to be. At least one other bed at that time still was that kind of stuff. So not wanting to embarrass my other siblings, I just leave it. You can imagine, and somebody walking through would purposely stuck his machete in it and exposed it. So we're not too concerned about our house down, but that people know, how we were living. And but I remember my father pulled us together, and a lot of people were there, and he knelt in the sand, and he prayed, and that was something else. He has his little chuckle and his whistle, and he pulled us together, and he prayed, and when he was finished, he said, "We're going to build back bigger and better." I laughed because I was the one who see how he's struggling with his money, and knowing that there was not much money to build bigger and better. And people were coming the evening and say, "Okay, I'll take this one with me, I'll take this one with me." And he said, "No, everyone will stay together here. We will build bigger and better together." And the people respected that. We didn't know where we were going, but somebody went home, bring back a mattress. Somebody, in fact, a man took me, he just came from England. And he took me and he opened some of those big trunk, and he said, "Take out what you want, son." That was the first time I was wearing denim jeans and Nike t-shirt and shoes with brand name. So, oh boy, so out of the roughness comes good. So God, again, I see the strength of a man in all of that. Yeah, this other reflection of him is a tough one, because I remember, if you look at his ribs, you will see that these are these two big bulges that he has there. And I asked him the story, and I could have some vague memories, but he said that he left home, and he remembered that he did not leave anything there for dinner or anything like that. So while he was about 4 miles away in the hills, his father is a property there. It has some breadfruit tree, and I guess he was doing some work there. And he said he looked up and he saw some breadfruit, but he couldn't allow the breadfruit to drop because it was on the side of a hill, and there would be a long way down to the river, and there would be no good if they dropped. So he climbed the breadfruit tree, and he put a side bag over. So he went up into the tree, picking the breadfruit, dropping them in the bag. I think he said he got 3, and then he saw another one, but it was further out. But he was determined to get that one. So he shuttled out on the limb, picked the breadfruit. I think he said he'd get it into the bag, and then, wow, the limb broke, and he was on his way. He saw his death because he couldn't live, because there was a lot of rocks, and then he would roll all the way continuous down the river. That's a spear. I couldn't live if he made that. He said as he was coming with the back on his shoulder and everything, there was a limb below, and he grabbed onto that limb with everything he has, and he said he heard his ribs snap and all the pain and everything. But when he looked down and when he thought of all of us, he said he has to hold on. And with all that excruciating pain, he managed to scuttle across the branch to the trunk and slide himself down. With all that pain, with the bag with the breadfruit, he will not allow that to drop. We noticed that he came home a bit later than usual, hambling, and he would put in wet towel and boil water and put in our mother would put in his abdomen there. But we did not know that the rest that he had gone through, all the struggles and the pain, walking almost 5 miles with that bag on his side, with 2 of his ribs broken. He did all of that. So right now, I'm wiping bottom and feeding and rolling him around. And I think of all of that. Sometimes tears come to my eyes. I think about that. And I thought about that sacrifice. And I just want to say that there's nothing that he can want, he can do that will be too much for me. Because I have known of all those sacrifices that he has made.